Hi guys, so I wanted to talk today about what's going on. Basically, I don't know how to address things as much. A lot of times when I do these health updates, I'm usually bleeding about something because I'm usually really upset or I'm really mad or, like I'm having some kind of a moment or like I'm on the verge of a crash out or something like that. I don't feel that way this time though. And so it's like, it's not that bad, but I feel like I need to still talk about it because there's a lot going on internally, like with my body and stuff and with my journey. And it's just odd. So, gosh, I don't even know where to start. So I've been sitting at around like 215 weight wise, and I'm 6'1", just for reference. I don't really know my body fat at this point. I want to say it's probably like 23, 24, something like that. Nothing aesthetic by any means. Not lean at all. But I want to say it's around there. I don't think it could be less than 22. It's like, it sounds like you're dreaming, like I don't even think so. But obviously, like, it's healthy, it's great, it's fine, but it's definitely not aesthetic. And I feel like there's a lot of layers overlapping. I don't know why I did this way. I keep saying that like 50,000 times, but it's like as if I did it as hard as it could be, but it could still be possible. That's basically what I did over the past year. And I think I did that for a lot of different reasons. And I think ultimately I'll be in a better position once all this is over. But the summer solstice is here and there's a lot of swelling and some hypo-ness. I don't know if I'm like super hypo, but it's just, there's a lot of burn off. You burn a lot of fat when it's really hot and when the sun's bright and when all this stuff is going on. And so my cals are staying at about 2,700. I'm not changing them ever again. I'm done. So no more like shifting, no more reverse dyes, nothing like that. And I'm reaching the point where it's been about 8 weeks. Like it'll be 8 weeks on Wednesday of this week. So July 14th-ish, around there. I can't think of the actual date, but it's whatever that Wednesday is. And I'll probably have a migraine again. And that will probably be the last like serotonin reduction moment. And then I should just adjust. But I have felt a lot of symptoms of, honestly, my reward circuitry is all over the place. I can't tell if my dopamine is higher, if my dopamine is lower. I can't tell if my serotonin is higher or lower. I literally don't even know. My brain feels like cottage cheese, but not really cottage cheese, but just like overstimmy and like restless and low doughish at the same time, which is just crazy. I don't understand that. And it's not that big of a deal. So I that's why I wasn't talking about it, because it's not like, oh, I'm struggling so much. I'm not. But it is annoying. And I think what's happening is I've been experiencing some HUNGER too, and a little bit of food noise and these kind of things. And it's kind of building over time. And I noticed in the mirror that I have a lot more leg muscle now than I have in a long time. Like I'm lifting on a leg press over 500 pounds. I don't even know the exact number. I just do I guess if you guys want to like figure it out, 645 plates on each side when I'm doing both legs, 345 plates on each side when I'm doing one leg at a time. And I've been doing a lot of work like on the inner thigh and then now the outer thigh. And then I've been doing my butt workouts and stuff. And when I posted a picture, that was the biggest difference, was my ass was bigger, basically. So I think the leg muscle building and all that stuff, it's starting to shift my metabolism at this point. And so I've had symptoms and feelings like a deficit is getting deeper, which I don't particularly love because I'm annoyed by it. And it just seems like it's getting worse. And I think it's because my weight isn't changing, but my composition is changing. So it's creating a feeling of frustration internally and hunger, basically. And then I have like some of the higher dopamine symptoms of a CalDEF or a vanity weight CalDEF. So like I get really focused and fixated on things. Like I'm sure you guys have noticed, like super obsessed with Olivia's album, super obsessed with this, like I'm super obsessive about everything, which that's like a high dopamine symptom. It's like you can really focus on things all the time and you're just like, wow, this is so fascinating. And it's like I will literally get lost in like social media rabbit holes about like conspiracy theories and weird stuff and, you know, just stuff like that. Like I'd always look at like skinwalker stuff. I know it's weird, but it's kind of fascinating to me. And it's like I will watch it for like over an hour. And then it's just like, whoa, this is really kind of crazy, you know? So it's not really like not being able to focus, it's being hyper focused. And it's just weird, but I still feel restless too. And I have to kind of talk about it a little bit, but I don't like talking about this. But as you guys know, like I quit watching Korn around 2 months ago, and I don't know what it is, but I think there's something in my brain. Like every time I've quit in the past around 2 months, it gets really tough. And it's not tough in a sense that I'm tempted or that I need it or something. Like I don't have any emotional connection to it at all. I haven't for years. I haven't used it as any kind of a coping mechanism since like 2022. So that's a long ass time ago. And I think honestly for me, it was kind of tied up in the TR. So when I left the TR, I didn't have this like emotional connection or fascination with Korn anymore. And there was no like mental or emotional way for me to have it as a coping mechanism. So that was really weird. I wasn't expecting that. But I keep telling you guys, like if you have like the TR, and especially at a severe level, your relationship with something like that or like with alcohol or something, it might be serving the greater issue. So I really need you to focus on that issue, especially if you're severe, because it's probably the root of a lot of things that you wouldn't even imagine, which I couldn't even believe that when that first started happening, where I was just losing interest in it. And eventually I started using it just for dopamine. During CalDEFs, around like the bra era, I had to be somewhat focused. Like during that time, my brain was completely cottage cheese. I could barely think. I could barely do my job. I could barely do like my activism. During that time, it was so hard. I was having such a hard time focusing because I had like no dopamine at all in my brain during that time. And obviously it's been different after that. When I went into the Lana era, I heavily relied on Korn to get stimulation and to create a sense of energy. So it was very like physically based. But other than that, it was like very light use over most of 2023. I didn't even use it for like 6 months in 2023. And it was just like, I just dropped it like a sack of potatoes. And then again though, after that 2 months, I struggled a little bit in that year too. That's how I kind of know. And then in 2024, like in the second half of 2023, I was like using it like once every 2 weeks or something, like super low use. And it was just for like some dopamine because I was very restless and I'd get like restlessness in my legs and arms and stuff like that. And I'd have trouble sleeping. And then in the Lana era, I started using it heavily because, like I said, I had nothing. And there was just no sense of stimulation from the food I had, literally nothing. And it was just wild. But when I went to the Kesha era, I went back to a lighter use again, instantly. And then I just quit. I did some meditations and stuff. As you guys know, I became grounded or rooted. I connected to my root chakra, and Korn just didn't sit right. Like, I just didn't feel like I was vibrationally with it. It just seemed too fake, or just too ungrounding, or just like not what I'm aligned with, basically, on a spiritual level. So I'm not talking about it from a sense of like moral judgment. I'm just saying, like, literally, like, as objectively as possible, I just don't resonate with it, that is such a cheesy term, but it actually does relate to like spirituality and stuff. You can just not resonate, so you just drop it. However, my body didn't drop it. My body is like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm like, so my brain is like really like wanting it, but my soul, my mind, my emotions, none of that wants it. I'm not interested. So it's just this weird feeling. And I think because of that, like, it's a part of my like reward circuitry getting all fucked up. And then I have the reverse diet on top of it, where it's like my serotonin is fluctuating so much because it went up when I increased calories, and then now it's like adjusting to that. So then it's super weird now. And I'm like, oh my God. So I like layered things on top of each other. So it's just really fucking weird. So I think that's why I'm like hyper stimulated in some areas and then low dopamine in other areas. It's like my brain circuitry is literally rewiring right now on like a very aggressive level, on top of having a body comp thing where my deficit is increasing due to body comp. So due to having more muscle in my legs, particularly, it's deepening because my weight is staying the same. And so if you stay the same weight and you're increasing muscle, you're increasing calorie expenditure. And so it's like my body is in this very weird gridlock type of situation, and weird, because then it's like my brain is adjusting to being in a deeper cal-def at the same time as everything else I've told you guys. So it's just super weird. And so sometimes I feel kind of moody, but I don't feel like terribly moody. And sometimes I feel sad, but I don't feel depressed. And then sometimes I feel like less pride, or like very humbled. It's almost like the opposite of December. In December, I had what I called, entitled woman energy. There's a video where I talked about that. It's because my serotonin was so high at that time, or at least my brain felt it as so high, and now it feels like it's lower. So I'm like, I have this humbled woman energy now. So it's like the opposite. And I feel like I'm like begging my body to recomp and to look better. And so I listen to that Olivia song like all the time, and I'm like, this is how I feel about my body right now. Like, I feel like I'm begging, because I get so sore. Because when you're doing lifts and stuff and you're in a cal-def, it's so much harder than when you're just doing a bulk. It is so much harder. It is awful. And it's like, I get so sore, I get so exhausted, and then there's like all this like solstice and all these hormones, and like everything's like layering on top of itself. And I'm like, and then if I make any progress, which I started to notice differences in my body like this week, but it's very Olivia, where it's like nothing's quite enough when I know that to get it I begged. That's how I feel. So the process is irritating, but it's doable. And I don't really have a desire to complain about it, but I felt like I needed to talk about it because I want you guys to know what the fuck is going on with me, because there's a lot going on. But as far as like my attachment style work and all that stuff, it's really good. It's better than I've ever been in my entire life. Like, I don't feel avoidant at all. Even when I get irritable, like, I don't care that much about like my mom doesn't irritate me or anything. I feel like just really good within my romantic situationship type of thing, where it's like I just want to be closer, and I don't have any fears or anything. of intimacy or anything like that. So it's kind of interesting. So I do think corn definitely plays into avoidance for sure. But because that has definitely, I think, helped like on a spiritual level, because it's like you just have more motivation to make things work, and you have more motivation to be more attached and these kind of things, which I think is good. So that part of it is really good. And even like with my audience and stuff, like I haven't been like super bitchified or anything. Like there's been a couple moments, but my bitchitude has been to like a very low level. I'll put it to you that way. This is probably the lowest it's ever been, because I feel like for the first time in a very long time, a lot of my drama or my sense of like, you know, fight or whatever, it has nothing to do with relationships or like with how people see me or with how I see people or any of that. It's like a completely separate thing. It's mostly like within the process, basically, which is interesting. But I don't focus on my body that much, and I don't really get into like negative body self-talk, because obviously not. But if I wanted to, I could. I'll put it to you that way. So I see why people struggle so much, especially with body comp, because it's so slow. And for me personally, I just don't want to do bulk cut. I just, like even just saying that out loud, it's like my nervous system is like, fuck you, don't even. So I am going to be talking about that pretty soon. Not anytime soon, because I'm still in this, but I'm going to be talking about recomp and the case for recomp, basically, and who I think it's good for and why I think you should do it rather than bulk cut, because it's actually longer to do a bulk and then a cut, and people don't understand that. So anyways, I'll get into that later. I'm not trying to like start a discussion about that at this moment. It's just stuff that I'm thinking about. But other than that, I did want to tell you guys, like, I have been doing my Kesha era. I just haven't really been talking about it that much online, because it's like, it's a lot of like real life. But I go out more, like, especially with my family. Like, I've been seeing movies with my grandma like every single week, basically, that there were horror movies and stuff. And then I go to my cousin's place and I spend time with her and her baby. And we like laugh at Olivia Rodrigo and stuff. Like we just go into like girly pop mode together, and it's really fun. And then it's like I've had more leisure time. So I've been getting into gaming, and I've been getting into like auntie games. So I've been playing like Sims 2, SimCity 4, like things like that are kind of old school. But like I miss them a lot. And I can focus on it and I can have fun. And it's like I've been talking to friends every day on the phone, and, you know, just stuff like that. Like just very chill. I was super exhausted in June. I think from like all the vanity downsizing, it was so exhausting, and I'm so blessed I was able to rest in June. And I feel like I'm still mostly resting in July too, or it's like a very low-key time. So I have enough time and you know, leisureness to process all these things at this time, and to let my reward system rewire and to kind of normalize. And I can still focus on the recomp because, honestly, of a place of privilege. Like, so I try not to take that for granted, and I try to really appreciate the support that you guys give, and I really appreciate the life that I've built to where it's very supported for me to do my recomp and stuff, because I don't know if I could have done it if it wasn't. You know, I think a lot of vanity aspects do require support, and I've tried to talk about that as far as the Kesha era. I do have 2 more activistic videos coming for the Kesha era. I'm going to do one around my birthday, but it requires me to travel. I'm going to be going to Cali. again. So it's something I want to do in California, because for me, that's where I was born, and I want to continue to do more root work in California. Like, look at where I was born and stuff like that. Like, I can go to the hospital I was born at and just, or even just be in the area. I think there's something so inherently grounding about being where you were born. And I feel like I might kind of take off in life or kind of do some crazy stuff over the next year. I hope, I want to be more extroverted and stuff. But I think sometimes you have to like connect deep with stuff like that. And I don't want to take that for granted. Like, a lot of people can't visit where they were born, or like there's issues and stuff. And I don't want to take that for granted. I want to appreciate that I can. And so I want to do that really bad. And I'm going to, and I'm going to talk about it activistically. We're going to, I have a video planned. So, because I do think for my extroverts and stuff, it's really important to ground yourself, and it's important to understand like pleasure comes from within the body. It doesn't come from outside. And I think a lot of extroverts feel that, where they feel like they have to depend on somebody else, or depend on a substance, or depend on something, or depend on partying, or doing these types of things to feel pleasure. But it actually comes from inside the body. So I want to talk about that. So it is definitely a more extroverted video in that sense. But this era has been kind of fascinating, because I think for a lot of it, I felt like I wasn't doing enough. And then I realized like recently, it's like, you've been working to be more extroverted, and you have been pretty much all along. And so the only thing I will say that's challenging about a Kesha era is I do think there is this feeling of like it's never enough. There is like a feeling of insatiability to it when you're in like a very light Cal-Def. And I think it's just important to like find satisfaction, because it's like what you're doing is enough. And you can find appreciation in your life, and your life can be enough too, even as you're working to level up further. It can still be enough in the moment. And I think that that's a difficult thing to process, but I think it's necessary, because there's so much emotional work in a Kesha style, just because you're not numbed at all, So I think it's gone really well, basically. And I think at this point, I'm just very grateful. I'm kind of humbled a little bit, to be honest. I'm humbled by the support. I'm humbled by the progress I've made. I'm humbled by the life I've built and that I'm continuing to build. And I hope that I can do some really big things in the year to come. And that's kind of exciting too, and I think a lot of it too is just focusing on the good, even with the bad. There is some bad in my life too, but it just I don't have any like psychological drive to focus on it, or I don't have that feeling. Like, I don't need to be in a fight anymore, or I don't need that. So I can kind of just let that stuff die down, or just not really focus on it that much, and just shift my effort towards what matters. And it's like, I think that that's really an important life lesson that I've learned. And it's definitely something that has to do with emotional control. And that's just for me personally. That's always been hard for me, but it's not anymore. So I don't know. I mean, call it what it is, call it what you want, I guess. But it's an interesting time for sure. And I think it's important to have these moments as you're doing a journey to kind of assess where you are versus where you came from. And I'm in a better place than I started, drastically better. And I still have my eyes on the future and even bigger and better things. So it's interesting. It's very interesting. But I will talk to you guys later. Thank you guys so much for watching this. I'll see you soon.